Welcome to the Maryland Means Business Podcast. I'm Cal.
And I'm Chessie. Cal, before we get to the rundown, I need a ruling on something.
Uh-oh.
We've got a real number today, not a maybe number, a number with a comma in a spot that makes people nervous. Are we saving it for last, or am I leading with it again like I did back in July?
Chessie's rule has been broken, unbroken, and reinterpreted so many times it needs its own legal team at this point. What's today's ruling?
Today we save it. The rule stands, for now.
Noted. So 4 stories today, and the theme kind of snuck up on me by story 3. This is an episode about Maryland writing checks, buying things outright, building things outright, retooling things outright. No leasing, no maybe someday. We've got Southern Maryland manufacturing, horse racing, Montgomery County's July investment numbers, and the biggest infrastructure bet the county's ever made.
I like that. But let's start small and local, because before the giant checks, there's a story out of Southern Maryland and the Eastern Shore that's just good, honest, unglamorous business. Victor Stanley. If you've ever sat on a park bench, tossed something in a trash can at a rest stop, or leaned on a bike rack, there's a decent chance it came out of a Victor Stanley plant. They've made furnishings for parks and public spaces out of Southern Maryland for over 60 years, and they just installed a brand new, fully automated tube laser system at their Eastern Shore facility.
This is the kind of investment that doesn't get a press conference but actually matters. Victor Stanley employs more than 120 people across their Maryland locations in Calvert and Caroline counties. The new equipment means faster, more precise production, less waste, and this is the part I want to underline, less manual lifting and repetitive strain for the people running the line.
Their VP and General Manager, Emma Skalka, said it best. She called the new tube laser an investment in our people as much as our production capacity. You don't buy safer equipment for a photo op.
And it fits Maryland's whole energy conversation lately. Their facilities run on 100% renewable energy, and they build with raw steel sourced from post-consumer and post-industrial scrap. 60 years old, fully modern operation.
60 years in and still investing in the factory floor. That's the kind of business owner story I want more of.
And it's not just the laser. Victor Stanley also makes something called relay, sensors that sit inside trash and recycling containers and figure out when they're actually full, so cities can optimize their collection routes instead of guessing. It's such a boring-sounding upgrade until you realize how much fuel and staff time that saves a municipality.
That's the kind of invisible efficiency nobody notices until it's gone.
All right, next one. Chessie, I'm handing this to you because it's basically a heist movie, except everyone's polite and it ends in paperwork.
I've been waiting all week for this. Maryland now fully owns the intellectual property rights to the Preakness Stakes and the Black-Eyed Susan. The actual name, the actual race. Here's how it happened. Back in June, Churchill Downs put in an $85 million offer for those rights. Maryland had a right of first refusal, basically first dibs to match any offer. And on June 18th, the state matched it. The deal closed July 30th.
And here's the part I love as the numbers guy. No general fund tax dollars were touched. The Maryland Economic Development Corporation, MDECO, financed the whole thing through issued notes. This wasn't raise your taxes to keep the Preakness. It was a financing structure doing its job.
Maryland's thoroughbred racing industry is worth roughly $3 billion in economic impact, and this locks in Pimlico's future. Racing days at Pimlico go from about 15 a year to more than 100. That's not a tweak. That's a completely different venue.
More than 500 jobs tied to the new Pimlico, too. And Maryland Jockey Club President Bill Nouse said that with everything now sitting with the state, they'll work closely with Maryland, Baltimore, and the Park Heights community. That's the neighborhood around Pimlico, and it's been promised a seat at the table before. Worth watching whether that promise holds this time.
This isn't happening in a vacuum either. Back in 2024, the state already authorized $400 million in bonds for the Pimlico redevelopment itself. And there's nearly $3 million moving through something called the Enough Initiative, specifically for Park Heights revitalization. So this IP purchase is really the last piece of a much bigger bet Maryland's been building for 2 years.
So when people ask why the state cared enough to match an $85 million offer, that's why. They'd already put $400 million on the table for the building. Letting someone else own the name attached to it would have been like renovating a house you don't hold the deed to.
What do you think, Cal? Smart use of a right of first refusal or an $85 million flex?
Honestly, both. But from horses to hydrogen now. Montgomery County just released its July investment numbers. And Chessie, remember back in mid-July when we were talking about Montgomery County pulling in $368 million in a single month?
Forbright Bank's IPO and Exometry's secondary offering. I remember because that was the month we finally explained what a secondary offering even is.
Right. July's numbers are a lot more modest by comparison, just over $92 million total, compared to about $7.5 million in July of last year. So year over year, that's a real jump, even if it's nowhere near June's blowout month.
The headline name this time is REGENXBIO out of Rockville. They raised just over $90 million in a second public offering on Nasdaq. They're a gene therapy company, over 370 employees, working on treatments for retinal, neuromuscular, and neurodegenerative diseases.
And then there's the one I actually want to talk about because it's such a Maryland kind of startup. Arculus Solutions out of Bethesda. They raised just under $2 million in seed funding at roughly a $20 million valuation. What they build is hydrogen barrier coatings, protective coatings for things like hydrogen fuel cell pipelines and storage tanks to stop hydrogen embrittlement.
A $20 million valuation on a coating company is not a small vote of confidence for something most of us have never heard of.
It's the kind of company you never think about until hydrogen infrastructure is everywhere and it doesn't fail. Boring is a compliment in this business.
Cal, translate that for the rest of us.
Hydrogen is a tiny, sneaky molecule. It can work its way into metal and make it brittle over time. That's embrittlement. As more infrastructure gets built around hydrogen as a fuel, somebody has to make sure the pipes don't quietly turn fragile. That's the whole business. Small company, unglamorous problem. Exactly the kind of thing that becomes essential if hydrogen infrastructure actually scales up.
One big biotech story carrying the month, one tiny company solving a problem nobody thinks about until it fails. That's Montgomery County in a sentence lately. Okay, Cal, I believe it's time.
It's time. This is the number, everybody. The Montgomery County Council approved $420 million in tax increment financing bonds for the Viva White Oak development.
Before you keep going, tax increment financing, explain it, because TIF bonds sounds like something you need a law degree to enjoy.
It's actually pretty elegant. The county borrows money now to build the infrastructure, roads, utilities, the stuff that makes a big development possible, and pays that money back later using the extra property tax revenue the new development itself generates once it's built. You're financing the future against the future, and this is Montgomery County's first time ever using it.
And what a first project to use it on. Viva White Oak is a $2.8 billion, 280-acre development going up right next to FDA headquarters. It's anchored by Costco, and it'll include more than 3 million square feet of lab space, office and medical office space, retail, and up to 5,000 homes.
The county's own projections say this generates $4.9 billion a year in economic output once it's built out, and $60 million a year in new county revenue. Construction jobs alone, 19,000. Permanent jobs once it's running, 9,000.
Construction starts this fall. Phase 1 alone, by 2031, is supposed to bring almost 1,000 townhomes, 1,000 apartments, a hotel, and close to 100,000 square feet of medical office space.
And this isn't even the whole build. There's a second phase plan from 2033 to 2044 that adds another 1.3 million square feet of life sciences lab and office space, 400,000 square feet of manufacturing space, nearly 2,500 more housing units, and 3,800 more permanent jobs on top of everything else.
So today's number isn't even the ceiling. It's the opening bid.
So let's tally the day. Maryland bought back a horse race, upgraded a park bench factory, and quietly greenlit a $2.8 billion life sciences neighborhood next to the FDA. That's a Tuesday around here, apparently.
It's a Wednesday, but I'll allow the bit.
Before we go, two things. First, every fact in this episode is sourced and linked in our show notes, so if a number surprised you, go check it yourself.
Second, a word from the people who make this show possible. Our sponsor, Maryland Smart Energy. Smarter buildings, smarter bills.
They help Maryland businesses cut energy costs through utility-funded programs. Nothing out of pocket. Right now through September, that includes HVAC tune-ups at no out-of-pocket cost, fully funded by Empower Maryland. If your building's cooling system has been working overtime this summer, get it looked at before it turns into a bigger bill.
Here's the honest version of that pitch. You're already paying for this. It's on your utility bill as the Empower Maryland charge, whether you use it or not. Maryland Smart Energy just makes sure you actually get the benefit you're already funding.
Same philosophy we try to bring to this show, honestly. We build it almost entirely with AI tools, and we picked ones from companies that cover their own energy and water costs instead of quietly passing them on to your utility bill. Keep the costs where they belong.
Find Maryland Smart Energy at mdsmartenergy.com.
That's the show. 4 stories, 0 crime, 0 doom, and apparently one very large horse race.
Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and now on YouTube if you'd rather watch than listen. Head to marylandmeans.business for the newsletter. We put the sources there too.
I'm Cal.
I'm Chessie. And remember, Maryland means business.